Everyone.
Yes, sir. Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It's Monday evening, the July 7th, a little after 6 p.m. So I know we have a question on the floor that Myra had on yesterday, but are there any other questions about our discussion from yesterday? And then we'll start with with Myra's question and see if we have any others after that. Anything with the discussion from yesterday? Okay. Pastor, do you want to start with Myra's question? Or what?
If there are not others, 'cause is there any other, are there any other questions on the floor before I do this?
I don't see her on the line. Is she, Myra, are you on right now?
I
My,
don't see you.
I want to wait until well, it's up to you though.
Go, no, we got questions, then I'll do it.
Okay. Do we have any other questions, guys? Doesn't have to be from yesterday. Discussion.
Oh, well, I got one while we're waiting for her.
Okay.
Uh, Yesterday we funeralized my uncle, and the pastor, normally do ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and and they say whatever, and then they take the pebbles of flowers and put it on the casket. This pastor, he didn't do that. He just read something, and the other minister just laid the flowers on the pebble. Is it traditional? Is it supposed to be something that they supposed to say ashes to ashes, dust to dust, or no? In the committal to the body to the ground.
Um, the tradition is ashes, dust to dust, but there's no set saying that you use as a gravesite. And if you say absolutely nothing and don't put flowers on the coffin, it does not matter. I know that when you go through Baptist or Methodist, they tell you what to say, but that is not that there's nothing that compels them to say that. So
Oh,
if you really look at a lot of what is being said there, um, what does ashes to ashes and dust to dust mean?
I don't know. You asking me? I don't know.
Um,
I guess
none of
dust.
us, none can
I,
tell you that. Because the only time that we talk about ashes is what we find in the scripture, in particular with David. You know,
mm-hmm.
he put in sackcloth and ashes. Um, Dust to dust. I can see that more as the body being dust is going back to the dust. But ashes to ashes, I don't see that. And I never understood the reason for putting three flowers on the coffin. I never understood the reasoning for that.
So
So
where did it start to begin at?
it started with Hitchcock, a white preacher, Methodist preacher, who wrote the handbook for preachers.
Oh,
That's
okay.
where it came from. Has nothing at all to do with the scriptures. It's simply a ritual that was imported from a white Baptist a white Baptist writer.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Oh,
I'm curious about something, Kathy. Was the family okay? Did the family uh notice that he did it differently? Were they upset about it?
No, no. I didn't see any of my family upset, but I know some of the other pastors looked at him like, okay, what are you saying?
Oh,
There's just the look that they gave him, but they didn't say anything. And I guess they was waiting for him. They waited a few minutes before they carried the body out, and I guess they was waiting for him to say ashes to ashes. And they looked at the minister that was putting the pebbles on there, and he was laying them on there, and they wasn't hearing ashes to ashes, dust to dust. and they was like, okay, I never heard this said this way before. So they didn't seem, the family didn't seem to be upset.
Okay. Just curious.
But the preachers would be upset because they are doing something that they frown on, which makes absolutely no sense, of course. I've committed bodies, and I've started with ashes, ashes, dust to dust, and then continued with words that came to me at that moment, as opposed to looking for the resurrection, that kind of thing. The earth and the sea shall give up their dead. I didn't use that, any of that.
Mhm.
So
Well, he
go
he
ahead.
was reading. He was reading something out of a book, but he had that little black book that the ministers or pastors have when they're walking in. They have different sayings in it, the scriptures in it, when you're doing funerals and
That's
weddings.
Hitchcock. That's Hitchcock's manual, and it has several different things in it that you can use at a funeral.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for your question.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else with a question or comment for that matter?
Okay. Myra's question dealt more with the birthday of the armed forces. Her question was concerned. This year's the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps 250 years old, and she said it covers the air, the land, the air, and the sea. And what does it mean spiritually? And the second part of it was next year our country will be 250 years old. Um, what is the spiritual significance of that? Um, what I see in that is the number 7. And 7 is a number that means other various things, but it also means um, um, completion. So when we talk about the seventh day, the creation of man, we've talked about in the past that the 7 speaks to the highest level of achievement of a man, of man. I see that much different than I saw it then. What I see is that 7 speaks to the highest level that religion can go to before it diminishes. What does it mean spiritually? When you consider that the controllers of religion in this country are the ones who always talk about supporting the veterans, and at the same time, they are cheering Trump, knowing that he has been accused of rape, sexual molestation. He's been accused of cheating the tax system. He has 30 plus felony charges against him, yet they still support him. He has no morals at all, yet they still support him. So, what am I saying? I am saying that religion is showing its true colors. Just like Donald Trump exposed everything that's been going on behind the scenes in the political arena. He has also exposed um, the the impotence of religion. He has exposed the truth about religion, that as long as you say God, it doesn't matter what you do if those who are in religion get what they want. So what I see is that Trump is having exposed everything in religion by virtue of showing us that the source, the strength, the power that's in Christianity is null and void. There is none. Why? Because you can't tell me that someone is going to hell because they had 3 wives with multiple children and accused of rape and convicted of sexual molestation, 39 felonies against him. And you are saying that he has the morals that fit the morality of Christianity. And that's what makes him fit to be president. God put him in this place to be president so he could change the country. Well, God did put him in that place, but not for the reasoning that they are putting forth. The very thing that that they used to control and manipulate people is the thing that's their undoing. And when I say there, I'm talking about religion. It is the undoing of religion. And at the same time, that there is the undoing of the political system in this country. It is also the undoing of religion in this country. And it doesn't matter whether you in a black church or white church or green church, it doesn't matter. You're going to suffer the same fate because everything that we know about Christianity came from the same people who enslaved us, came from the people who raped us, came from the mindset of people who is like Donald Trump. And that is the reason lynchings could be justified simply because white folks said it's okay. And the major ones who were saying it was okay were white preachers and their congregations. So back to the number 7. I see this number 7 being the beginning of the end for both religion and politics. We've already seen the chaos that's involved in both of them. I do believe that the 250th year of this country is a year that we will look at or look back at and see the crumbling of Rome, the crumbling of this country, along with the crumbling of religion. Do I think that we're going to be in this chaotic state until then? I don't. I don't. I believe that when as we are moving towards the 250th year of this country, we are going to begin to see an upsurge in the population who are against the chaos that has been created by Donald Trump and his minions, more by his minions than him. And I say that because people, I don't believe that the Creator is going to allow people to suffer from now to the so-called birth date of this country. I don't believe that. I believe that we are going to see more chaotic instances or more chaos in the society, but we are going to also experience or travel a pathway that we will begin to see light at the end of the tunnel, meaning that it won't be just continuous chaos until that period, but we'll begin to see changes taking place. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. Any questions about that?
I have a question
Uh-huh.
in honor to the ancestors. Okay, it's no coincidence that you're talking about the number 7, because today is the 7th month, the 7th day, and the year of 2025, which adds up to 7. So what is the significance of that with what you're talking about? Or is this what you just talked about?
The 7, I did not give any thought to that, to be honest with you. However, when you said 7th day, 7th month, I felt that. I do believe that the 3 sevens that you mentioned is also a message. 3 times 7 is 21, and 2 and 1 is 3. And that is the number of divinity. So I do believe that beginning today, yes, we will see, oh my God, yes, we will see chaos. Yes, we will see people who are afraid of what is coming and what they're experiencing. Yet I also see that the divine number represents the divine spirit. And the embracing of people who are suffering will take place in a manner that we have no idea, but they will be taken care of. And at the same time that that's happening, we are going to begin to see light at the end of the tunnel. Does that make sense, Evelyn, and the rest of you guys?
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank
Anyone?
you for stressing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Or are there any other questions, or are there comments about what has been said so far? The portion that Myra mentioned about the armed forces covering the land, the air, and the sea. What do I see in that? I see an example of the power of the armed forces of this country, because this country controls the land, air, and sea with weapons of mass destruction. And I see that they put more credence in the power of these weapons than they ever did before. You go in and you bomb Iran, and you use planes that they cannot even see on radar. And then after you bomb as much as you want to, you then organize a truce between the two and never admit that the most dangerous people in Northern Africa are the people of Israel, because of the weapons that they control, because they have nuclear weapons, and they do not allow the international body that oversees these nuclear weapons to come into Israel. They don't know how many they have. They don't know anything about Israel's nuclear program, but no one says anything about that. So all of these things are tied to this country. And I believe also that the control that this country has over the land, the sea, and the air is coming to an end. I do believe that. The purpose of putting troops in LA and in the state of Florida with intentions of sending them to Louisiana as well as Texas is a tactic that's being used to have the military stationed in different states with an eye on challenging anyone who stands up against the power that the Supreme Court has given Trump and taken away from the judicial system. I believe also that bringing this to an end will be different than any end that we can ever think of. The ancestors knows how to end this and will end this. And it will not end because it is being attacked with weapons that's made by men. The end will come through the spiritual essence, not only of who we are, not only of who the ancestors are, but the spiritual essence of the universe as well. I believe that there is no way that the house that was constructed for us to live in is going to be destroyed by that European mindset that is more barbaric than anything. And I keep using the term barbaric as well as uncivilized because just because you have a car and just because you live in a house instead of a cave, it doesn't mean that you are civilized. You wouldn't be living in a house if it had not been for the people who you despise the most, Africans. You would not have a country if it were not for Africans. So I do not believe that this house, the earth that was brought into existence for us to be the gods of, to be the guardian of, I do not believe that it will be destroyed. But I do believe at some point there is going to be a cataclysmic event that is going to bring all of this to a halt. I'm done for now. Any questions or comments?
Yes, I have one. I have another one. So is the military the beast of the field, beast of the air, beast of the sea, and beast of the land that Revelation talks about?
No, I don't think the military is. I think the whole system is.
Mm-hmm.
You can't separate the system. The entire system is the beast that is a danger to humanity. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And keep in mind that
But-
Revelation speaks in parables, okay? It speaks
Yeah. I yield.
Allegories. The Revelation has more complex allegories than any other part of the Bible, other than what is the 61 Isaiah that repeats everything in that's in Revelations. Okay, go ahead, Evan.
So is it not a bestiality energy where it just destroys, it kills. Yeah.
I even though the term beast is there, I would not insult a beast by comparing it to the barbaric nature of the European mindset.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Ron?
Okay, good start. Anybody have another question on another subject?
I suppose that from the way things are headed, unless you have something specifically that you desire to open up, this may be a Q&R, a Q&A rather. I'm talking about Q&R.
Yeah.
Q&A.
I'm pretty sure unless we have somebody new there, because we talked about 7 quite a bit. Did everybody understand where Pastor saw the number 7?
I did not. I thought the 20 had to be added in, but I'm thinking that was left off.
No, I did not I dealt with the 3 sevens in terms of 25, right? 7, 7, 25.
Okay.
Yeah. And I looked at the double sevens more than anything else because I'm sorry, I looked at the 3 sevens rather more than anything else because of the 21. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And if you take the 2 and add it to that 21, it makes 26, right? The 2, I'm sorry, 23, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Which is beauty, balance. Does that make sense?
23 is beauty balance.
Nope. If you take the 23
Right.
and add
2
not
and
the 21, not the 23, and add the 5, right? I mean, add the 2.
uh-huh.
That gives you 20, what? 20,
3.
yes. And that 23 added together is 5.
Okay.
And 5 is the number of balance, which is often spoken of as beauty. And beauty is balance. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. Thank you. Thank you Bob, for that question.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Questions?
I'm sorry, Pastor, go ahead.
No, I'm just asking if there are questions, that's all.
Okay.
Let me ask this question then. How many of you read Isaiah 53 after the discussion about it yesterday? Did any of you read
I wasn't on. I'll read it. What you say, Isaiah? What?
53?
The whole chapter?
Yep.
Okay.
Not that long.
I did.
Excuse me.
I went back and read it again.
Did you get the same message?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone have questions about anything, regardless of when the question came to you or what it's about?
Well, Pastor, what Audrey had mentioned about 53, to me, that was very profound on yesterday. Was it yesterday or Saturday? Days of Becoming One. But Audrey, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you say that, and I don't want to mess it up. Do you remember what you said? Because I don't want to mess it up. It was something that if it was pertaining to us. Am I correct with that?
I asked, in light of what we had talked about in Isaiah 54, I asked who or what was Isaiah 53 talking about, because
Right.
it's always interpreted kind of as a sort of prophecy of Jesus. But then we've said too that they're really, oh, sorry, got to turn my camera on. Anyway, but we were saying too that, that Jesus is more a concept than an actual person. So so that just made me think about, because when we were talking about 54, I was looking back at 53 to see what led up to 54. And then that made me wonder, well, what is it talking about, or who is it talking about? So that's kind of what made me ask the question. But and then Pastor said what he said, but I'll let him say it because he can say it better than me. But and then I said he's talking about it was talking about mainly the African. And then in our discussion yesterday, I could just see it plain and simple that is what it was talking about.
Yeah. It's, yeah, just as clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she said what I said already. And that's clear. They're
Yeah.
just talking about the African. That's all I said. That when I read it, the first thing came to me is just talking about the African. And we also talked about the reality of this concept of Jesus being about the African. And you can insert the African in any space that you talk about in terms of the stories about Jesus. And we discussed that at length because of some questions that Charles brought up. However, I think that this understanding rather is extremely important, and it is more beneficial for us who make every attempt to embrace the reality of who we are and the reality of the journey that we are on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's pretty much what was said yesterday.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sorry I got on late because I wanted to ask you to reiterate what you had said about it from yesterday. Because I think it's really important that people hear it and
Yeah.
understand it.
Yes, I think so as well, because every single time someone brings up something about the concept of Jesus, the ancestors show us clearly what that allegory is speaking of. And when I spoke in reference to Jesus being on the cross, speaking to the African who have endured pain and suffering in order to get to the place where we see who we are and we become deliverers. And the journey to becoming a deliverer is one that causes you to die to self. And it is painful to die to self, because dying to self also means dying to all those beliefs that we had about Christianity and all the fears that we had about angering God. So that's one of the reasons I think is extremely important as well, that we understand the pain of becoming a deliverer. And if you look at that scripture in particular, what you will see is that once you die to self, which means the death on the cross, and you become a deliverer, that's a resurrection of who you were before you became who you are. And becoming that, excuse me, becoming that deliverer speaks to the reality of being in this earth, but not of it. And the reason you're not of it is because you put away childish things, you put away childish thoughts, you put away earthly thoughts, seeking spiritual guidance. And when it talks about the resurrection, is alluding to that as well, but also is talking about the personage of who you are when you embrace the reality of femininity, of the cosmic mother, of the reality of the birth of the first human coming from an African womb. When you do that, it is then that you are able to leave the sepulcher, leave the grave, leave all of those earthly things that you were taught behind you, and you show up in places that you were never expected to show up in. And when you show up there, people don't necessarily recognize you until you open your mouth and start talking. So I see this whole journey that we are on, the same journey that the allegory about this entity that's described as Jesus took, because his name means to deliverer, or to one who delivers. So that's how I see this whole event, as opposed to talking out of both sides of our mouth. On one hand, we are taught that Jesus was a human. On the other hand, we're taught that Jesus was a God. So how can you be both 100% God and 100% human? You cannot be both. You cannot be both. You are not 100% human, 100% God. What happens in that case is, once you realize who you are spiritually and embrace deliverance and forgiveness, once you do that, it is at that point that the ancestors began to speak to you more clearly. And if we were not embracing that reality of the ancestors, the clarity with which we speak now would not be available to us. But because our reliance is on spiritual guidance, we are privy to the wisdom of the Creator. And that wisdom from the Creator is brought to us in the form of understanding by the ancestors. And the understanding that we get from this wisdom, we bring the knowledge to you, the experience of this wisdom to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Questions, comments?
So I have a question. So Jesus is a concept. So are we not a concept? Because the concept of Jesus came to show us who we are.
Let me say this.
So that's my question.
The
Okay.
concept is not physical. The concept is spiritual. Okay.
I got that. I got that.
So we are not that because we are physical. We are spirit. We are Elohim living in a physical body. And I'm going to say something that might make some of you uncomfortable. This concept of Jesus never lived in a physical body. It was put in a physical body by men who sought to humanize or to Europeanize the scriptures. That's why you put it in the physical body. And if you're questioning why I say this, it's because I have traced the concept about Jesus through the annals of history. And there are multiple concepts about how Jesus, there are multiple sources as to how Jesus became a physical being. I suggested yesterday that if you look at the Acacian schism, you will see that Jesus was non-existent as a body. It was spiritual concept until the Europeans argued with the Africans and took control of it and put him in a body. The primary source of this body is the Catholic Church. And out of the womb of the Catholic Church came all Protestant religions. Came all religions that believes in Jesus being a human being, when in reality he was much he is much more than a human can ever be. Deliverance is more powerful than anyone who is in a human body. And that is the reason our journey towards deliverance, our embracing the responsibility of delivered humanity, is more powerful than anything that we have ever received from religion. And the power of deliverance overrides the power of anything that's physical, whether it be a physical body or a physical weapon of mass destruction. Deliverance supersedes all of that, because the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. They are not destructive. The weapons of our warfare are not nuclear weapons. The weapons of our warfare is spiritual. And the spiritual power, the spiritual essence of us understanding who we are and embracing it overcomes all of that. I had another experience yesterday that I told you about once before, that my doorbell, my front doorbell, and when it rung, and when I looked at it on the phone, it says that that a person had been detected, but nobody was at the door. No one was at the door. So I believe things like that are a reminder to me. I believe that things like that happens with you are a reminder to you as to who you are and the source of your guidance. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes, and while you were talking, I can see that religion put Christ in a body to have us reaching outward instead of going internally. So yeah, I got the concept now. Thank you.
Okay.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Any questions or comments?
Yes, this is Angela. I have a question. And that Isaiah 53, verse 10, I'll read the whole thing, but Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hands. Okay, they're going back to with that part where it says, yet it pleased the Lord. Is that the Lord is talking about man presenting himself as Lord when it said it pleased the Lord to bruise him?
That word that's translated as Lord means Jehovah, which is the self-existing one. So it is not talking about Lord as we were taught in the church.
Mm-hmm.
It is talking about the personality of Elohim, because if you look at the course that Jehovah takes in the Old Testament, you will see Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Nisi. Those are talking about the different personalities of Elohim. Because if you look at Genesis 3, it says that the Lord God made man from the dust of the earth. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what I'm saying is, if you look at Genesis 1, you see God, 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 God. Elohim, 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 Elohim. But when you get to the making of man from the dust, what you see is Lord God. So in the spiritual nature of this human, it is saying that the spiritual nature of this human also has the personality of Jehovah. Does that make sense? Hello?
I'm here. Okay, I got a question because I think I'm stuck on the part where it says it pleased him to bruise him, like to, as I'm thinking, cause affliction upon one. Is that, yeah, that's the part right there.
It says that it pleased him to bruise to bruise him. The him is not there. It says it pleased the Lord to bruise, to shatter, to crush the grief when he made this our soul. That's what they're saying. Because if you look at it and you begin to, if you have a concordance, there are places where you're going to see that the words that are added in this. Sometimes they're there for clarity, and sometimes they're there to mislead. In this particular instance, it's talking about the clarity of it, because why would there not be pleasure in crushing all of the belief systems that we were taught? Why would there not be power in that? Everything that we were taught was something that caused grief, that caused pain to us. And all of that is crushed when we begin this journey and embrace the reality of who we are. The things that hurt us, the words calling someone the N-word, the treatment that we received, the lies that we've been told, all of that has been crushed on, and the crushing of it means that now that it is crushed, you are free from those things that hindered you from moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
And that was done when? That was done before the soul was offered up for sin. What does that mean? Sin means is not what we were taught it was. The word sin talks about the things that we get caught up in or entanglements that we have. So if we are the ones who have been through all of this grief and we've embraced who we are, what is this saying? This is saying that you're a deliverer. You became a deliverer. You are able not only to free yourself from the entanglements, but you're also able to free others from those entanglements. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have a quick comment.
Go ahead, Audrey.
When you were talking about the African being bruised and stricken and crushed and all that, there's this thing on YouTube where a man asked ChatGPT what race it would choose.
Yeah, I saw that.
And man, that was so profound for
Well,
this sort of machine brain to come up with. But it talked about why it would choose to come as Black because of the crushing and the suffering and because of all of that. It can see God in Black people because of what they have suffered. It was just so profound. I was, if you haven't heard it, you should Google it on YouTube. It's called A Man Asked ChatGPT What Race It Would Choose. But it was very profound. And the man who asked the question was, I mean, he was overcome. He was just about to sob because it was so profound.
Repeat the name of it again, please.
If you on YouTube, if you Google Man Asks ChatGPT, Man asked ChatGPT what race it would choose to be.
What race?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was what race God
No, what race it would choose to be.
choose to be. Okay. I would ask you guys to really, really look at that or read it because it is indeed profound. And it speaks in depth about the reasoning that's given to coming as someone Black. It actually, it speaks about us more than in a better way of terms than we speak about ourselves. I think it would be very interesting, informative, and encouraging if you would go to YouTube and find that. What I'm beginning to see is that more and more people of European descent are popping up with these videos and talking about how the African has been treated, and regardless of what you say about the African, all life for humans came through the African. Those kinds of things are becoming more and more prevalent than they have been in the past. And I take all those things as a sign that we are moving in the right direction and that things are happening the way they are supposed to happen. And I'm also hearing a lot of people who have experienced some regrettable things, yet while still in the throes of it, they are saying all of this happened for a reason. The universe allowed this to happen to benefit me. I mean, it's amazing how much what we have spoken of and placed it in macro is coming back to humanity through the words of others.
Yeah.
Okay, Ron?
Thank you. Thank you. Good discussion, good questions. Anyone else? Any questions or comments? Okay. Well, then let us take a pause here and think about what has been said. Thank you for your energy, and have an awesome week, and look forward to seeing you Saturday.
And you have an awesome week also.
Thank you.
All right. See you
Okay.
guys. Bye.
Enjoy the week,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.